The Honda BR-V is now in its second generation, and ever since this car debuted, it quickly became Honda's best-selling model in the Philippines. Compared to the Xpander Cross, the Veloz, and the much newer Stargazer X, how does the BR-V stack up?
So this is the new Honda BR-V, which is now in its second generation, and as you're gonna see, it looks a lot simpler, a lot cleaner compared to the previous generation model that it replaces. This looks not, I guess, groundbreaking enough, but the more important part is it looks well proportioned, and as a result of that, I think it's the best looking of the bunch, even though I love the Stargazer so much. So in terms of the design, there's nothing inherently interesting about it, but the most important part is because it looks so well proportioned, you don't need any of those visual noise to make the car look interesting. So at the front, being the 1.5 VX, the range-topping version, you have a chrome grille, a satin silver finish sa kanyang front bumper. So moving down the sides, you're gonna see that there's also a visor sa kanyang side windows, which, by the way, is an accessory along with the protection for the door handles, and also yung kanyang fender garnish sa kanyang harap. And then you also have 17-inch wheels, which looks really good in my opinion. It really makes the car look well proportioned, and it fills the wheel wells so nicely and gives the BR-V a very sporty look. You also have roof rails, by the way, for the 1.5V and the 1.5VX. And then moving towards the back, you're gonna see LED taillights as standard across all variants, by the way, including the LED headlights. And then because this is the accessorized version, there's a chrome strip that connects the two LED taillights. But yun nga, it's an optional extra. But without that, I mean, the BR-V looks completely fine. So this is basically a representation of the entire accessories package of the Honda BR-V as you're seeing here in this specific model. So with that said, I think it's a good time for us to talk about the interior of the Honda BR-V. So as for the interior of the Honda BR-V, as you're gonna see, just like the exterior, it's not exactly visually interesting, but yun nga, repeating what I said sa exterior niya kanina, it's fundamentally a nice interior pa rin because ang kabal kasi ng plastic na ginamit ng Honda for the interior of the BR-V. So it doesn't feel brittle, doesn't feel hollow, doesn't feel like yung parang kasing flimsy nung sa Toyota Veloz and Avanza. And there's an added bonus here in the 1.5VX, the range-topping version. You have a soft padded surface here sa kanang dashboard and leather surfaces sa kanang doors, which adds to the premium vibe of the interior. So it may not look visually interesting, but I think it's a nice interior nevertheless. My benchmark pa rin though for interior quality would be the Mitsubishi Xpander GLS, the range-topping version, or the Xpander Cross, kasi that uses soft touch materials, or rather like a leather surface pa nga for its dash materials. And the quality feel extends to the controls and the switches of the car because even the climate controls feel very crisp and very solid. The paddle shifters feel nice, like your typical global Honda steering wheel, because other brands tend to cheap out on the steering wheels for regional cars. I'm looking at the Toyota Veloz. And pati rin yung kanyang wiper and signal stalks, it feels very solid, very crisp, and well damped yung kanyang pakiramdam. It really feels like a quality product here in the BR-V. It doesn't feel like a regional product that's meant for Southeast Asia lang. It really feels like a global Honda car, and that's always a good thing. So apart from the interior design and the quality feel, let's talk about the ergonomics and the tech features that you get. So this is the range-topping 1.5VX, so you get a color multi-information display along with, though this is offered as standard on all variants naman, an 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The menus are logically laid out and it's responsive enough. My problem with it is though, it's very minor lang naman. The physical controls of the infotainment system are on the right side. So alam mong this car was primarily designed for right-hand drive markets. But then, I digress. Maliit na naman ang market ang left-hand drive sa Southeast Asia compared to right-hand drive cars. But anyway, yun nga, you have Apple CarPlay functionality and Android Auto. Not the wireless variety though, but I'm pretty okay with that sa totoo lang because wireless smartphone mirroring features tend to be unreliable at times for me. And then you also have automatic climate control for the VX and the 1.5V, the middle variant model. And then you also have push-button start across all variants. Those smart entries only for the 1.5V and the 1.5VX. So now, moving towards the comfort and the driving position, I love the seats. I like the seats of the BR-V. There's good lateral support because of the bolstering on the sides. Yun nga lang though, this only gets tilting steering wheel and no telescoping adjustments na totoo lang. So yeah, to be honest, the seat is a bit too close for my liking, just for me to have an ideal driving position sa steering wheel para abot ko siya ng matino. Pero yun nga, I really wish that Honda added telescoping steering wheel for the BRV. Nonetheless, the BRV's interior is a nice place to be, and it's functional, fundamentally nice, not visually interesting, but again, it's still a nice place to be in because of how Honda's logically designed and also giving it a very nice quality feel. So I think it's a good time for us now to move to the back seats of the Honda BRV. So here in the back seats of the Honda BRV, as you're gonna see, there's plenty of space for my 5'11" height. So there's a good amount of headroom, a good amount of legroom, and this seat, by the way, is set to my driving position. So this takes into account a tall driver and a tall rear passenger. So yeah, in terms of width, it's not exactly that wide because, well, all the cars naman in this segment aren't really that wide. But the BRV's interior is sort of the wider in the segment, which means that the middle passenger won't be arguing that much for shoulder room with the outer passengers. And then as for amenities, what you get here is a rear center armrest, a 12-volt outlet, and your obligatory rear aircon vent. You also have your usual map pockets at the rear seats with a partition for two more small item pockets, for the lack of a better term, sa passenger side na upuan. So yeah, by the way, the seats can move forward and backward for either more legroom here at the second row or for more cargo space or more legroom for the third row passengers. So yeah, having said that, I think it's a good time for me to move to the third row seats of the Honda BRV to find out how a tall dude like me can fit in there. So climbing in the back of the Honda BRV, it's as simple as that. Just pulling a lever and then close lang natin yung door. And let's bring this seat down and put it back up. Actually, this seat, by the way, has not been moved forward to accommodate my size. So I'm actually amazed that there's still a good amount of room for my 5'11" height. Though by good, I mean this much good, I guess, in terms of legroom. But yun na nga, the point is, I haven't moved the seat pa forward. So if I move these seats, again, I'm gonna do that now. Yeah, as you're gonna see, this has been moved forward a bit na. And yeah, in terms of legroom, for my 5'11" height, I'm actually okay here sa third row ng BRV. And I think it's one of the best in terms of carrying third row passengers. So as for amenities naman ngayon, you only have a 12-volt outlet sa right side ng interior. And well, yeah, actually that's pretty much about it in terms of amenities. So I think it's a good time na ngayon for us to talk about the trunk space of the Honda BRV.
As for cargo space, the Honda BRV offers 244 liters behind the third row. But if you fold down those third row seats, space then increases to 530 liters. Finally, if you also fold down the second row seats, you are now given a maximum space of 1032 liters, which surprisingly is one of the smaller ones in the class. Now as for engines, what you get as standard is a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder gasoline engine, which produces class-leading horsepower figures. This is then mated to a 6-speed manual on the base model, or a CVT on everything else.
So first and foremost, what you're gonna notice immediately with the new Honda BRV is the car's inherent stability and yung kanyang rigidity sa kanyang katawan. So kung makapansin nyo, whenever I review cars sa Go Flat Out PH, I always mention chassis rigidity because if a car is inherently rock solid yung kanyang katawan, everything practically carries over or follows through because ang ibig sabihin nun maganda yung iyong ride comfort, yung kanyang handling. And let's first talk about ride comfort because I think the Honda BRV is one of the better riding cars in this segment. So in terms of the small bumps, there's an inherent firmness that you would expect from a small 7-seater vehicle. And that pretty much carries over through with the BRV kasi in terms of low-speed ride, yun nga, there's a bit of firmness with how it deals with the smaller bumps. But the moment you go faster or as you go to bigger bumps, the ride then improves by a lot because this car deals with the big bumps in a manner that's actually pretty much similar to like a Honda CR-V. As in, it's a class above yung kanang ride quality when it comes to the bigger bumps and when it comes to high-speed ride. And we're going through a bit of rough road ngayon, or a bit of not that smooth concrete and uphill pa to at the same time. So it's basically everything that you would want to put a small 7-seater vehicle like this to the test, because syempre, as you load this car up with 7 people, mas lalong hirap to kapag dito sa mga paangat. Pero sa to lang, we've driven this car up to Baguio, at least not me, si John Ferds was able to drive this car up to Baguio na. And sa to lang, it's a piece of cake for this car to go up to Baguio, even with people in cargo taken into account. And then this car's solid structure also translates to class-leading handling. So, okay, cars in this segment aren't necessarily known for sporty handling, let's be honest. And even the BRV, hindi siya sporty. But, compared to the Xpander, compared to the Stargazer, compared to the Veloz, this feels the most dynamic. Because the steering wheel, let's begin with the steering. The steering is actually pretty good for compared to the vehicles in this segment. So there's a degree of precision to the steering. There's also a good amount of feedback, surprisingly, to the steering. And hindi siya kasing eerily light na parang dun sa may Hyundai Stargazer. So there's still a bit of driver connection with the steering wheel of this car compared to its rivals. And the suspension also deals, yun nga, the firmer-ish suspension at low speeds niya translates to better handling then when you go through twisties. Push the BRV to its handling limits though and it will enter a understeer, which is very predictable naman and what you would expect in cars like this. But compared to the other cars in this segment, this has higher grip limits. So part of the dynamism of the vehicle is its CVT. Because it easily responds to your inputs, it will change its ratio easily and very eagerly. But yun nga lang, it's not a CVT that tries to pretend to be a traditional automatic transmission. So when you put your foot down, kahit let's say you're just cornering and trying to accelerate out of a corner, yeah, it's really holding the revs. It doesn't have like a fake upshift or downshift whatsoever. So there's that part. Itong 1.5-liter engine niya, itong kanang 1.5-liter iVTEC DOHC gasoline engine is actually the best in class in terms of horsepower. So that's easily felt dito sa mga twisty roads because you don't actually need to bury your foot down as much compared to its rivals. And in terms of power delivery, I would actually consider this, the Hyundai Stargazer and the Toyota Veloz, to be at the top of their class, with the BRV being the best solely because of the power advantage. Yun nga though, for all of its goodness in terms of handling and surprisingly to a degree, kanyang comfort na rin, it's not exactly what I would call a serene driving experience. And that's what you're gonna see or find out even more later once we go through the highway. So now that we're here on the highway, I think it's all good to talk about the car's stability and refinement. So, kanina sabi ko nga, yung refinement is gonna be worth talking about because sa totoo lang, for all its goodness nga in terms of stability, handling, and comfort, in terms of NVH though, that's what I was surprised with the BRV. It's, I think, the noisiest in its segment na ngayon. Okay, it's not terrible, di man siya parang kasing lala ng mga, di man siya kasing pangat nung let's say the older 90s cars kung sabihin natin. Pero compared to even the Veloz, even the Xpander, and actually lalo na the Stargazer is my class benchmark when it comes to refinement. Itong BRV is one of the noisiest right now in terms of road and wind noise, and lalo na engine noise actually. So, I'm currently doing 100 kph ngayon, pero sa totoo lang, with the Veloz, Stargazer, and Xpander pa nga, those cars feel a lot more serene at these speeds. It doesn't also help with the fact na yung kanang windows din aren't that thick. Kaya, pag mayroong motor sa tabi mo, sa totoo lang, you can actually hear their conversations. Engine noise as well, when I put my foot down, yeah, hindi naman hirap yung makina. Sa totoo lang, sabi ko nga kanina, the engine's the most powerful in its class. Pero, you would think na hirap siya, I guess. You would mistake it as hirap because the engine's vocal even at low speeds. Kahit nasa city ka lang, when you're cruising around the city, you can always hear the engine all the time. Pinagkaiba mo lang is kapag, let's say, syempre, if you're light in the throttle, mas mababa yung revs, pero you can still hear it in the background. The CVT overall naman is pretty good, but yun nga, as you've heard kanina nga, it is holding the revs and it doesn't make any pretensions of being a traditional automatic transmission. There's no fake gears whatsoever. It's really gonna hold the revs for the entire time that you're buried in the throttle pedal. But, well, yeah, I guess you can have everything, of course, in this class and at this price point. Of course, there's gonna be a bit of concessions to be made in some areas of the car in order to meet the price point. Where one area Honda didn't skimp, though, in the BRV was in terms of safety. So, okay, every variant comes with reverse camera, the usual stability control, hill start assist. But here in the VX, this range-topping version, what you also get is Honda Sensing. So, along with the Stargazer and the Veloz, or at least the range-topping versions of those cars, these vehicles has one of the most comprehensive suite of advanced driver assistance systems in the class. So, in the BRV VX with the Honda Sensing, what you get is adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, lane keeping assist, and automatic high beam. So, wala ka lang blind spot warning and rear cross traffic alert. What you get instead is a lane watch camera when you activate the turn signals. Pero apart from that, this car is pretty much on par with the Stargazer and the Veloz when it comes to the advanced safety features. Kasi kung yung Veloz nga tsaka Stargazer, wala nga silang adaptive cruise control. But anyhow, in terms of fuel economy, I think it's a good time to talk about the fuel economy. So, over a week's worth with driving this car, I was averaging at a figure of around 12 to 13 kilometers per liter, making this one of the most fuel-efficient vehicles in its class. Nearly on par with the, basically, Stargazer, Veloz, itong BRV. They're all hitting 13 kilometers per liter very easily on an average combined city highway driving. Very fuel-efficient, basically. And that's despite the BRV being the most powerful in its class. So that's basically the gist with the Honda BRV. It's the most dynamic, the most stable, the best, I guess, in terms of balancing ride comfort and handling, as well as fuel efficiency with class-leading power along with a good amount of safety features. Yun nga lang, it's not the most refined car in its segment because of the road and wind noise and the engine noise that you hear with the car. But still, overall, the Honda BRV is one of the best in its class as of the moment if you're looking for an affordable subcompact 7-seater MPV SUV thing. Basically, you know the gist in this segment of what vehicles the BRV is competing in.
Pricing for the Honda BRV starts at 1,090,000 pesos. And this gets the base S manual, which while it comes with full LED headlights, LED taillights, and even a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system, what you only get are steel wheels. Splurging however for the 1.5S CVT, and you now get 17-inch alloy wheels. Stepping up to the 1.5V CVT, and you now get leather seats, smart entry, automatic climate control, just to name a few. Lastly, this 1.5VX now gets the full Honda Sensing safety suite, and a soft padded dashboard, just to name a few. Based on these prices, the Honda BRV is one of the most expensive in its segment. But then, the BRV is one of the most dynamic to drive in its class. It is, however, not the most refined. But, if driving dynamics and the comprehensive suite of safety features, at least in the VX, are what you're looking for in this segment, then the BRV would be a perfect choice for you. For the most part, however, the Stargazer and most likely the newer Stargazer X will remain to be our class benchmark.